with you about the history and present and the future of metaverses. So I will tell you the true story of the past, present, and future with a bit of introduction. So this is yours truly in the form of my photorealistic avatar. And to introduce myself, I am a veteran of the virtual reality industry and as a metaverse builder. I have 30 years of professional experience under my belt. And as you see in the overview, these are the metaverses that I've built in my 30-year career so far. My very first project ever in VR, fresh out of university and after my military service, was to create a metaverse called Cyberturn in 1991. After that, I did a snow crash inspired metaverse interface for CompuServe. This was the way to access the internet before the World Wide Web. And then in 1993, we created for Ericsson Business Networks a working prototype of a metaverse dedicated to e-commerce. Notice the date. This is before the World Wide Web got started, which was in 94 and 95. Later, we did another big one called iCity, and since the 2001, we've been working on a metaverse for a client in Los Angeles. And as of last year, we have raised all the funds we need, the initial funding, to start building our most ambitious metaverse yet, which is still in semi-stealth mode, and which is, for me personally, the 6th metaverse that I am building and creating, this time not for clients. So I've been building metaverses since 1991, and that puts me in a relatively good position to perhaps know a thing or two about what a metaverse is and what it isn't. So there's been a huge wave of global media attention to metaverses, especially after the major announcement of the rebranding of Facebook to Meta by Mark Zuckerberg. So you might think that after that wave of media attention, you have a pretty good idea of what a metaverse is, or what the metaverse is. Well, actually, it couldn't be further from the truth, because what Zuckerberg and other people in big tech are calling the metaverse, singular, is not the meaning of what the word has had since 1992, when it was coined by Neil Stephenson. They are not talking about the same thing. So I will help you to distinguish the two. What they are talking about is some kind of next generation of the mobile internet with some augmented reality involved and digital twins. And their concept is relatively nebulous, because really all they are pushing is their vision for the next generation of whatever they have been doing. And so we have seen, especially after the announcement by Zuckerberg, everybody and their uncle piling on, including Alibaba, basically rebranding and repositioning whatever they have been doing and what they are doing as something that relates to the metaverse, singular, that has been talked about a lot. So, however, hang on, I am getting disturbed by, okay, that call has been removed. So, what the singular metaverse that Zuckerberg and big tech is talking about is actually only existent in fiction. So the cyberspace of William Gibson in 1984, the metaverse of Snow Crash in 1992 by Neil Stephenson, and the Oasis metaverse of Ernest Cline in his science fiction novel Ready Player One. It's only in science fiction novels that there is talk of a single metaverse, a singular metaverse. And that is for reason of dramatic intensification, which is a device for increasing dramatic tension in a fictional narrative. And so the reality is rather different, as I will show you. So because of the big splash that Mark made, we do need to say a few things about Meta. And in fairness to Mark, what he did is a heroic effort to change the subject from the troubles that Facebook is in with regard to their the document dump that has happened, and also the whistleblower that has come forward. So as heroic as his effort has been, it really is clearly legible as a relatively clumsy pivot, which got richly deserved universal blowback. What few people are noticing is that at the very moment of this pivot, Facebook actually has the lowest price to earnings ratio of any social network, which really illustrates or underscores that investors have lost faith in Facebook as a growth stock. So I understand where Mark is coming from. He needed to reinvent Facebook. He needed to reinvent the brand and put a positive spin on it. However, I do think that investors and a lot of other people than just investors realize that Facebook, or Meta now, faces huge, difficult to solve problems, including more regulation, stagnant user growth, nimbler competition from Apple and Microsoft, and changing consumer habits. So this rebrand, plus the $10 billion per year that he is throwing at the metaverse, will not distract investors from the fundamental challenge and difficult position that Meta is in. So to add fuel to the fire, the person, Neil Stephenson, who coined the word metaverse in 1992 in his novel Snow Crash, went public and saying that he wants people to know he has nothing to do with the metaverse plans of Facebook. And so he's clearly dissociating himself from what Mark Zuckerberg put forward as his vision of the metaverse. So we've now looked at what a metaverse is not. Let me tell you what a metaverse is. A metaverse is a persistent social virtual world where one can live, create, work, and play. Because this is important, let me run that by you again. A metaverse is a persistent social virtual world where one can live, create, work, and play. So let me break down these four verbs for you. Living means that you can reside there. You can own a building or a plot of land and your own place. You can socialize there. You can shop there. You can create all kinds of things using user-generated content tools. You can work there. You can be an employee, an employer, a virtual estate investor, and you can play. Of course, you need to be able to game there, and games are part and parcel of any self-respecting metaverse. So a metaverse are things like Second Life. Second Life was a metaverse and still is to some extent. Another good example of a metaverse, but a fictional one, is the Oasis. That was the central locus of action in Ready Player One, both the novel as well as the Steven Spielberg movie of the same name. So, in other words, a metaverse creates a shared immaterial plane of existence. In that sense, a metaverse is the technological realization of a very deeply ancient notion, such as in the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic scriptures, of the astral plane, which really is a shared immaterial plane of existence. So we are now seeing the technological realization of that ancient concept. So let's look a little bit at the recent past of technological realizations of that old idea. So in one slide, the history of metaverses, plural, starts in the 70s. Some would argue even in the 60s, with precursors such as networked military simulators, which create virtual battlefields where people, soldiers in simulators for jet fighters, as well as simulators for battle tanks, they are put together in the same battlefield by means of computer networking. So that created the first kind of cyberspaces where soldiers military could train in multi-user network battlefields. And then there were games like Maze War, which was a precursor of later games like Doom and Castle Wolfenstein and all of those. And that was in 1974. In the 80s, then, we see the first real pioneers of consumer-facing metaverses. The very first consumer-facing metaverse was called Habitat. It was produced or published by Lucasfilm and created by F. Randall Farmer and Chip Morningstar and published in 1985. Later, there were new versions like Club Caribe. And then we fast forward to the 90s, where yours truly is starting the pioneering 3D metaverses, because in the 80s, the metaverses were not 3D yet. They were 2D or 2.5D. And but they were already genuine metaverses. They had a virtual community. You were able to live there, and there was persistence to the metaverse that they created, to the virtual community that they created. So 90s, we have the pioneering 3D metaverses. We have the rise of virtual reality markup language, VRML, which was the extension of HTML for 3D content and multi-user networked virtual spaces on the internet. In the early noughties, then, we had the launch of Second Life. I think that was 2002 or 2003. And that really saw the first fully fledged metaverse in terms of having a virtual community, a metaverse with a functioning internal economy and its own currency and its own marketplace, its own tools for user-generated content, and marketplaces for the selling of avatars and avatar clothing and accessories and user-generated games, etc. So in the 2010s, then we have Philip Rosedale of Second Life, who had another go at creating a 3D metaverse in the form of high fidelity. And now in the 2020s, we are seeing what is really a revival of the field of metaverses. So we saw already the rise of some blockchain-powered metaverses like Decentraland and Somnium. There is the metaverse. When Facebook announced their first metaverse and called it Horizon, that's what they called a metaverse, and they were correct in their terminology 3 or 4 years ago. They are no longer accurate in their terminology with now their pivot to calling whatever they're working on the metaverse singular. So that is the brief history of metaverses, and it is in this context that yours truly is now building our most ambitious metaverse yet, which we think will do all of what came before and a lot more. So that brings us to the present. What is happening today, in my view, is very similar to what happened in the 1990s with what we call the browser wars. I don't know how old of you are, all of you who are watching this keynote, but in the 90s, at the beginning of the internet, there was a period of several years, a handful of years, during which there was a big war between browsers who wanted to be the dominant browser. And you may remember Netscape and Internet Explorer, and then Chrome joined the fray, and Firefox and all of that. And so what happened there is what I think will happen in the next few years with what I call the Metaverse Wars. And the starting shot of these Metaverse Wars can rightly be said to be Mark Zuckerberg's keynote of, 10 days ago now. And so what you will see is you will see a proliferation of metaverses that are coming out of the woodwork and that are all presenting themselves as the best, the newest, the greatest metaverse ever. And it really is like, they're multiplying like bunnies, like bunny rabbits at the moment. And there is no way that the world, the internet, can sustain such a proliferation of metaverses. They cannot all be successful and become a long-term metaverse. So what will happen is in a few years, you will see a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and you will see metaverse entrants that disappear because they just can't cut it. And you will see a big consolidation, after which I expect we will see a handful of metaverses, plural, that will be viable for the long term, and that will stick around in the same way that we have a browser landscape now that is populated by 3 or 4 dominant browsers. So the future of the metaverse field is not a single metaverse, as Mark and other people in big tech are claiming. It will be a handful of metaverses, just like we have a landscape of 3, 4, 5, half a dozen metaverses that will stick around after the consolidation of the industry that will happen in the coming years. So you can already see that the battlefield of these metaverse wars have started, because we are already seeing articles with headlines like this one, where they say that Microsoft and Meta are on a collision course for metaverse competition. And that's just Microsoft and Meta. There is dozens of other entrants in this space that will vie for position. We ourselves have made the first announcement of our own metaverse on the 8th of May of this year, where we launched a video, a first teaser video, breaking cover from our stealth mode. We are still in stealth mode, and we are soon to make some big announcements that you will probably not miss in the global media. So importantly, in our metaverse approach is that we think it's very important for the democratization of metaverses, including ours, that your metaverse is accessible from as many devices as possible. And to this end, we are adopting an omni-device approach, where you can access the same metaverse from your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, your PC, your virtual reality headset, or your AR glasses, and even from game consoles. So the metaverse that we are presently building, and we have a closed alpha up and running, is inspired architecturally from nature, as well as from solar punk, which is a ideological movement as well as a design movement that started in the 70s, which seeks to create a balanced harmony between technology, nature, and the individual. So what does the future hold for metaverses? As I said, we will see an industry consolidation with a handful of metaverses remaining. You will see Oasis type, and I'm referring to the Ready Player One movie by Steven Spielberg now. You will see that kind of graphics, but in real time, including through the use of cloud rendering. You will see omni-device access, or metaverses that are making sure that they are accessible from as many devices as possible. Hopefully, many of them will be interoperable, so you will not have to redesign your avatar every time you join a new metaverse. You will have something called portable avatars and portable content including NFTs, that you will be able to carry with you like a backpack in a game. You will be able to carry your possessions from metaverse to metaverse. For the deep future of metaverses, I think that metaverses are a step in the evolution of mankind towards the noosphere. And so it can be the technological vehicle to build a so-called innerverse. In addition to going to outer space, we also will be going as a humanity to inner space, which are metaverses. So eventually, we will see mind uploads in the style of Permutation City, which is a science fiction novel by Greg Egan that I warmly recommend to you. We may eventually also see MetaMind group or hive minds having and living inside of these metaverses. And in the very deep future, we will have entire metaverses that are carried on board of nanoscale metaverse spaceships that are shot into the physical universe to carry out human civilization and mankind to nearby stars and star systems and the galaxy. So with that, I rest my case and I open the floor to a Q&A session where I will answer what questions you may have. And Samar, take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you very, very much for doing this. And we've got a question already which says, can we say Fortnite game as a small version of Metaverse?
Fortnite is a game that understood that it can be a platform that can become a metaverse. So I have to commend Fortnite for having the insight that their platform could be used for having music concerts. And so they did two very successful ones, and music concerts where you have massive audiences are one of the use cases of metaverses. So in future metaverses, you will have live events like music concerts, but also sports games or esports events, live events and conferences and keynotes with tens of thousands of people experiencing and enjoying a live event inside of a metaverse. And so we are seeing a first taste of that with the music concerts that Fortnite is organizing within its platform. So I would call Fortnite a fledgling, an aspiring metaverse. It's not a fully fledged metaverse yet because you cannot buy land there, you cannot live there yet, you cannot work and earn a living there yet. So it is missing many of the general purpose features that a true metaverse needs to have, but it definitely shows a lot of promise, and it can develop into a fully fledged metaverse.
Okay, so we had that question. Guys, if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, so there's another question that comes in. Do you think that the core age or gender demographics for current games would apply to metaverses as well?
Gaming is huge, including in metaverses. So the fictional metaverse of the Oasis in the Ready Player One novel and movie, that is actually what I would call a gaming-focused metaverse. You had Planet Doom inside of that fictional Oasis. So that is what I would call a gaming-focused metaverse. And what Mark in his keynote presented is what I would call a socializing-focused metaverse. So the Horizon metaverse of Meta is a socializing-focused metaverse. And Decentraland is a virtual real estate speculation-focused metaverse. So what you're seeing is you see these metaverses that are all of them only partially fulfilling the promise of fully fledged metaverses. One is focused on socializing, another is focused on gaming, another is focused on Roblox, for example, is another gaming focused metaverse. The metaverse that we are building is much more general purpose. We have our own focus, but true to the definition of a metaverse, in our metaverse, you will be able to do all of these things and more. You will be able to live there. You will be able to create there. You will be able to work there and earn a real living in a virtual world, and you will be able to play there. So to circle back to the question, yes, the psychographic and the target demographics of most games, including casual games, fits very, very well with the target demographic of metaverses. But the target demographic or psychographic of metaverses, plural, is actually, it couldn't be broader. In the case of our own metaverse, we are targeting everyone who is now on Facebook. So it really is a demographic that goes everybody who is young at heart from 8 to 88 years old, so to speak, is a potential immigrant and citizen of a metaverse, and certainly of the general purpose metaverse that we are building.
Okay, follow-up questions. If there are any questions, please book them in chat. Otherwise, I'm going to ask. So I would like to ask you, Philip, about, everybody's talking about blockchain and there's the pros and the cons as well. So I wanted to check in with you. What you think? How will this, disrupt money as we know of today? And do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? And of course, there are all the dangers as well associated with it. But, what's your take on it?
I think it's a great thing. I'm a big supporter of blockchain technology per se. I'm very wary and aware of the dangers, of course, but I have a vision for how to mitigate those dangers and to not throw away the baby with the bathwater. So a self-respecting, fully fledged metaverse has an internal economy and has its own internal currency and its internal marketplace. And so our metaverse will absolutely be blockchain powered. We will be powered by the latest and greatest and eco-friendly of blockchain technology platforms. I will not reveal the name yet. That will come in the next few weeks. But absolutely, you need to be blockchain powered, and we not more than just blockchain powered, we are also subscribers to the whole vision of decentralized finance, as well as decentralized democracies. So you need great decentralized governance, democratic governance, and we have very ambitious plans for spearheading not only information technology, but also cultural and legal technology by creating a metaverse that will be differentiated, among other things, by having a system for internal governance that is democratic and that is decentralized all the way.
Okay, we have a question from the audience as well, from one of our panelists actually. What sort of impact do you foresee metaverse engagement will have on real world social interactions? There are already concerns about weakening relationships with mobile, weakening personal and interpersonal relationships with mobile and social networks. So what do you think? How will this play out?
So, I've been doing VR for 30 years now. I celebrate my 30-year anniversary as a VR professional and veteran this year. I am obviously a fan of the internet and of virtual reality. That doesn't mean that I am blind to the fact that the internet and gaming, multi-user gaming or single-user gaming, can be very addictive and can create social isolation. So it is one of the possible perversions and ironies of the internet and of gaming that a technology that enables us to meet other people virtually actually can also isolate us socially. So one of the things that Mark Zuckerberg got right in his keynote is the importance of presence. And so virtual reality, like no other technology, is able to create a visceral sense of the presence of other people. With virtual reality and with technology that does real-time face tracking and the display of real-time emotions on your avatar, volumetric video avatars, and all of that, we are in a great position to enable presence to each other remotely as you have never seen it before. You will swear that the other person is really there, very much there. And for applications like adult content, you will have haptic technology and other technology. You will have romantic and erotic encounters in cyberspace, in virtual reality, in metaverses that are the next best thing to the physical reality, the real world version of the same thing. And so I think the future looks great for being able to have a full life or a very full life in metaverses. And we are designing our metaverse from the ground up by design to be ergonomically friendly so that people can live and work in there. Remember that we said that we want our metaverse to be a place, an immaterial plane of existence where you can earn a real living. But earning a real living means that you spend 8 work hours in the metaverse. And so are we thinking that people will really spend 8 hours wearing a VR headset in a metaverse? No. But that is why it's so important that your metaverse is accessible from any device. So if your metaverse, if you can do your job in the metaverse 8 hours per day or more, you can spend those 8 hours with a combination of being in the metaverse, present in the metaverse, doing your job. For a couple of hours, you might do it from your smartphone. And the next few hours, you might do it in a VR headset. The next few hours, you might do it on your laptop. So you are not going to spend 8 hours nonstop in a virtual reality headset, but we are designing the user interface and the user experience of our metaverse for sure to be as ergonomic and user friendly so that you don't even notice that you're using an interface, and that it becomes second nature, and you can spend hours and hours and entire days inside of the metaverse earning a real living in a virtual world. That doesn't mean that the risk for social alienation and isolation has disappeared. So we are building into our design of the metaverse or our metaverse, we are building into our design features that prevent addiction and that prevent overuse. And we also are tracking, if people will allow us, we are looking for signs that people might be getting suicidal. And so we are keenly aware of the dangers. And so we are designing our metaverse from scratch to do what we can to prevent the downsides of virtual lifestyles.
Okay, so final question, Philip, and then we'll have to say goodbye to you, at least this time around, because our next panelists are here already. So the final question is, how Metaverse works into the climate change movement? We're working in reducing emissions and save the planet. However, Metaverse may use so much energy, electricity, etc. How will Metaverse win against this negative effect?
Our way of being eco-aware and eco-conscious and eco-friendly is, for example, by choosing a blockchain platform that does not require any mining. So we do not want to work with blockchain technology that requires mining, such as Bitcoin and other blockchain technologies. So the blockchain platform that we are using is extremely eco-friendly, zero mining. And so that is one way that we make sure that our metaverse does not exacerbate the load on the environment from information technology. We are looking at other ways of also doing that by, for example, supporting the hardware manufacturers of headsets that are eco-friendly. Apple, for example, is famous for the eco-friendliness of its consumer products, including the iPhone, etc. The same will have to apply to the manufacturers of VR headsets and AR headsets. Another way that we are contributing to adapting and to avoiding extreme climate change is by virtue of the fact that in a metaverse, you do not have to commute to work. You do not have to travel to a conference. So you can do your work from the safety and the COVID safety also of your own home.
People would complain also, okay, because people are so ready to kind of meet in person again and attend all these conferences again. But I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So
okay.
Of course, virtual reality is when it is fully developed, virtual reality and metaverses will be the next best thing to meeting people in person. And so it will give you the possibility to not have to commute to work, but to just go to your work and work for 8 hours or more in the metaverse without polluting the environment with the emissions of your car, or without polluting the environment with being on an airplane to travel to a conference or to an exhibition. So that doesn't mean that people will no longer be able to meet in person. Of course, you will still be able to meet in person, but I think that in the longer term, in-person meetings will be perceived as something special. So you will go to an office or to a real world meeting to maybe start a conference, or to have once a week a meeting in person with the people that you are in a work team with. And so in-person meetings will not go away, but you will be amazed at how close the next wave of virtual reality will be to recreating the quality of in-person meetings. You will have eye contact, you will have facial expressions, you will have volumetric presence of people. And so virtual reality and metaverses will genuinely become the next best thing to in-person meetings and working with people in person.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. I think most of us can relate because of COVID. Everybody is now so comfortable using Zoom. Of course, if you're trying to do such a long conference like we are, it's bound to get tiring. But, I think everybody does relate, and I think everybody does realize that that's the future. So thank you very, very much. We're very curious to hear about your project whenever you're ready to reveal further details. Maybe we can have you come back. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Samar, for having me, and shukriya.